All right, guys, we are going to be reacting to Idistaviso, Tavisho, 16 after AD, the Roman-Germanic Wars. We reacted to, I think, 9 AD. This one is, I think, post AD or whatever. We're going to react to more of this. This is very interesting, by the way. Let's jump in.
The Varian disaster radiated throughout the Roman
they
Empire.
got their ass
It
over there
became
in
obvious
Germania.
that reinforcements had to
The
be
Romans,
sent
that
to
is.
the Gallic border. The closest commander to the area, Tiberius, marched north towards the Rhine. He found its defences almost unmanned. He garrisoned the forts and ordered guard details to be posted at strategic points along the Rhine to prevent any possible Germanic crossing of the river. With these arrangements made, he departed for Rome and left his adopted son, Germanicus, as commander in the area. The boy who would become Germanicus was born Nero Claudius Drusus in 16 BC. He was the nephew of Tiberius and great-nephew of Augustus himself. His father, another Nero Claudius Drusus, was killed when he fell off his horse in 9 BC. The Senate granted the family the honorific Germanicus as a battle honour. Despite his lack of experience, young Germanicus proved himself brilliant, and recruited, trained and marshalled his own army from scratch as the Illyrian situation deteriorated in 6 AD. With his army assembled from freedmen and conscripts in Rome, Germanicus crossed the Adriatic to the war zone in Illyria. At this point in the conflict, many professional commanders were bogged down by the insurgents' guerrilla tactics, but Germanicus enjoyed much success. He conquered the Illyrian Mazei people, in whose territory his army wintered. As the conflict dragged into 8 AD, Germanicus rejoined his army and moved south to take Splonum, a prosperous mining centre. After some difficulty, he took the city, followed by Ratium and many other rebel strongholds along the way. After these many successes, he was given command of an entire army group, with which he helped turn the war in Rome's favour during 9 AD. After the Illyrian surrender, Germanicus received triumphal honours, in addition to the position of praetor as a reward for his great courage and prowess. Before the war, he was a naive civil magistrate with a talent for writing, and now he was a battle commander. This is what Germanicus had accomplished before taking the office along the Rhine in the aftermath of the Teutoburg catastrophe in 9 AD. After a brief stint as military commander in the region, during which he stabilized the regional defenses, he returned to Rome, where he performed his duties as a praetor expertly. In 11 AD, the responsibility to deal with the possible Germanic threat was given to Tiberius and Germanicus. They passed across the Rhine border, marching with impunity through Germany. Due to the cautiousness of both sides, there was no pitched battle, and in late 11 AD, Germanicus returned to Rome. Upon his arrival at the start of 12 AD, he became a consul at the age of 27, one of the youngest ever to receive the honour. After his year as consul had expired, Germanicus was appointed Legatus Augusti pro praetore, or deputy and governor for the 3 Gallic provinces and Germania, the very same position which his father Drusus the Elder had occupied. The new legate's duties included nation building in the new regions, ensuring internal stability and promoting Rome's economic interests in the area.
That's funny. Wow.
In late summer of 14 AD, at the old age of 75,
So basically, these
Augustus,
folks, they wanted to simply just stabilize those regions with government, with a system of governance. So before that, I guess some of these regions, they didn't have anything, right? They were just like tribes and stuff like that. That's funny. That has to be the southern part of Germany, of Europe, the one that really established what we call today a government. Am I right here? Let me know what you guys think.
the creator of the Roman Empire and adopted son of Julius Caesar, passed away while visiting Nola. The succession of Augustus had been a prime concern throughout his reign. Eventually, Tiberius was chosen by the late princeps to inherit the empire, while Germanicus and his family were now permitted to take the name Caesar. In Rome, Tiberius consolidated his power among the military, senate, and aristocracy, while his heir apparent, Postumus Agrippa, perished, with Germanicus ascending to the role instead. At this point, it is possible that Tiberius became paranoid about his popular nephew's power and feared he might attempt to overthrow him. However, Germanicus was unswervingly loyal to the new emperor, and proved it by his actions, not at all thinking of usurping imperial authority. A test of this loyalty was put to the vibrant young general in mid-15 AD, when the legions on the Rhine and Danube revolted. They were angry about pay, conditions, and the cruelty of their centurions. Dissatisfied at Tiberius's response, they attempted to proclaim Germanicus the emperor, but he angrily refused. Instead, he proclaimed that he would rather die than betray the emperor, and threatened to commit suicide. The legions stopped him, and they eventually came to a compromise.
Wow. Wow.
Seeking to focus the legionnaires' energy on a common foe to restore their unity, Germanicus sent 15,000 men across the Rhine to devastate the Marsi nation, ruthlessly ordering that everything in a 50-mile radius of their city should be burned and destroyed, while all enemy civilians in the area were murdered.
Oh my god.
When this was done, other Germanic tribes attacked as the Romans were marching back to the Rhine. Germanicus rallied his troops to victory, then travelled back to Rome. Word of his exploits in crushing the mutinies and invading Germania reached the Eternal City before he did, and the people of Rome, as well as the Praetorian cohorts, came to meet him upon his return, applauding his achievements. As a reward for his services, Germanicus received the privilege of a triumph. Germanicus then returned to modern-day Cologne, where he began to plan that year's campaigns. Across the river lived a tribe called the Chatti. As they were close to the sphere of Roman urban influence, they had urban settlements, engaged in lengthy military campaigns, and even elected their leaders. Their power represented a large threat to Roman.
So they have some kind of governance, but not close to what we already know, or more like the Roman way, right? This kind of. I'm very amazed of how in the hell all this thing happened. All this happened. They clearly have a society well established, but it's not with the system that we have today. Meaning, I mean, not with the system of democracies and none of this stuff, which is kind of interesting.
Region. And
I don't
so
know if I'm
Germanicus
explaining myself
launched
correctly.
a brutal two-pronged attack against them. Many Chatti villages were burned, and countless men, women, and children were killed in this campaign.
Wow,
which drew the attention of the Cherusci, the tribe of Arminius, and the remnants of the Marsi. The latter were quickly defeated by Germanicus.
Wow.
The Romans even captured Arminius's pregnant wife, Thusnelda. Hearing of his wife's capture, Arminius rallied his Cherusci tribe and their Germanic allies. Germanicus knew that he needed to launch a preemptive strike before the tribes could launch their own attack, and planned a massive three-pronged attack to surround the Cherusci, aiming to cut them off from their Bructeri and Angrivarii allies.
Wow.
While two commanders led the legions on land, Germanicus himself headed an amphibious invasion up the River Ems. The central column reached the main Bructeri settlement and pillaged it, managing to find the Aquila of Legio 19. The three army groups then joined together, and Germanicus diverted their route into the area in which Varus's legions had been slaughtered. Roman remains and equipment still littered the area, and, in an emotional experience, the Roman soldiers buried their massacred comrades and honoured them with a tumulus, a sacred mound. As he retreated, Germanicus's army was attacked and suffered badly, but the campaigns of 15 AD had largely been a success. The next year, Germanicus decided to launch a decisive campaign against Arminius. A massive amphibious invasion of 52,000 soldiers and 1,000 ships again thrust up the Ems and disembarked on the left side of the river. His legions marched east until they met the Germanic forces on the opposite side of the Weser River. The two armies drew up for the coming conflict in an area of the channel in which there were fords but no bridges.
Okay.
Germanicus decided that without safe crossing points, he would be exposing his legionaries to unnecessary danger if he forced them to cross, and so came up with a new plan. While the majority of his army stayed where it was, he commanded the left and right-wing cavalry units under Stertinius and Aemilius to distract the Germanic infantry on the flanks, while the elite Batavian cavalry under Charivalda crashed into the enemy centre. The Batavians made progress against Arminius' front.
I'm glad that he did this video and put some visualization of how it would look during those days. This makes a lot of sense. These are just tribes, man. These are tribes. Look at that.
The Batavians made progress against Arminius' front line and almost broke through to the enemy leader. But he had served with the Roman military during the years before Teutoburg and was familiar with this diversionary tactic. He had laid a trap of his own, and at this point his Cherusci cavalry swept out of the forest and surrounded Charivalda's forces, killing the cavalry commander. Their horsemen began to melt away under the charge, but the two flanking cavalry forces turned inward and attempted to rescue their Batavian counterparts. They succeeded, and a small amount of the surviving central cavalry managed to escape. Seeing that his initial strategy had failed, Germanicus sounded a retreat across the river and returned to camp. The Roman commander wanted to campaign against Arminius further, but he was unsure about the morale of his soldiers. He was soon reassured when the taunting of a Germanic warrior was replied by the legionaries angrily jeering and shouting back that they would take their lands and wives as spoils of war. Confident in the high spirits of his soldiers, Germanicus marched out once again to engage the enemy on the plain of Idistaviso. His army consisted of Gallic and Germanic auxiliaries, as well as foot archers in the vanguard. 4 imperial legions were behind them, followed by Germanicus himself, accompanied by 2 praetorian cohorts and some hand-picked cavalry. Next came 4 more Roman legions, lightly armed troops, some horse archers, and the remaining allied cohorts. Arminius' Angravarii and Cherusci infantry forces began on a hill slope and charged viciously down at the Roman front line to open the battle. Seeing the Germanic infantry making their charge, Germanicus ordered the cavalry under Stertinius to attack Arminius' flank and rear, holding his infantry back for the time being. He waited until the cavalry made contact, and then ordered his auxiliaries and the first 4 legions to advance at the charging Germanic infantry.
Oh my god.
As the legionaries threw their 2 pila, the enemy began to immediately suffer casualties, and they eventually started to flee. However, Arminius himself, along with the second line of Germanic warriors, charged towards the exposed Roman archers, which were then reinforced by the allied cohorts. Gradually, the tide of battle turned against the Germans, and they, as they had done to the Romans 7 years earlier, were utterly slaughtered.
Damn, man.
No prisoners were taken, while Arminius escaped.
Wow.
After his victory, Germanicus constructed a victory monument, and this angered the Germans enough to fight once again.
Ooh,
Arminius and the tribal war
That's a way of them marking the territory. I'm planting the statue here, or a flag. That's the marking territory.
Decided to retreat to Angravarii land to prepare for the next battle. The warriors of this land erected an earthwork barricade between a swamp and a forest, with Arminius wishing to draw the Romans into attacking the barrier, while the Cherusci cavalry and infantry laid in ambush. However, Germanicus's scouts had seen the Germans constructing their defensive fortification, and he developed a counter-strategy. He drew up his army in front of the barricade, with himself commanding the battle group assaulting the more difficult terrain on the right flank, accompanied by the Praetorian cohorts. Meanwhile, Gaius Tubero commanded the left flank on more level ground. The battle opened when the left battle group attacked the wall, facing difficulty and drawing Germanic reinforcements to them. At the same time, the Roman cavalry on the right engaged the Germanic forces in the forest, who Germanicus knew were there. Nevertheless, they still suffered losses. In order to soften the enemy up, the Roman archers, slingers, and artillery rained down missiles on the wall. Germanicus decided this was the moment, and he led his Praetorian cohorts forward up the slope toward the barrier. After some brutal combat, this elite formation managed to break through the barrier and then swung right, attacking the Cherusci forces from the rear. In this brutal fighting, Germanicus himself slew many enemies, inspiring his soldiers to victory. After hours of intense fighting, the Romans drove the enemy from the battlefield, and the remaining Germanic leaders fled.
Damn!
The Roman psychological wounds from the Teutoburg disaster had been avenged, but Tiberius decided that conquering Germania was not worth the cost, and recalled Germanicus to Rome, where he again was awarded a triumph and the consulship in 18 AD. After this, he was sent to Asia and reorganized the provinces there. However, he either died of disease or was poisoned in 19 AD.
Wow.
The Roman conqueror was dead. Similarly, in Germany, Arminius, lacking the Romans as an active enemy, began to war against the other Germanic tribes, and was eventually killed by opponents in his own tribe who thought that he was becoming too powerful.
Wow.
When we create our videos, as a source, we often...
Yo, this was very good, man. Wow. That region is interesting, bro. You deleted kids, baby, all this stuff for nothing. Like, you didn't. So you left that land for nothing. That was not smart. Why taking a loss? Why taking a loss for what? For nothing? Well, I'm putting bridges. I'm connecting everything, man. I'm not allowing that land. I lost too many men already. I'm conquering that land. I'm conquering it. I'm conquering it quick. I would not be deleting the kids and the female. I'll delete the man if I was them, right? Delete the man. Don't worry. Take the kids. Take the women. But they deleted everything. That was stupid, in my opinion. Stupid. It makes no sense. Strategically, it doesn't make sense if you want to use slaves, right? Because then now you have less personnel to build stuff. But this is, of course, I'm not saying this is okay. If I'm putting myself in their shoes. Let me know what you guys think. This was very interesting. This was really interesting. Wow, this history is insane, man. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the next one.